Hi, and welcome to Gary's Garage. Today, we're working on the Subaru. So the last race I had, I was getting a noise. Listen to this. Alright, so first up, we want to remove the caliper and then hang it up so that we protect the brake line. On the fronts, there's an intermediate bracket, but on the back there isn't, so we're just going to have it like that. There we go, and let's get the socket of the wrench. I'm going to try and take this off with the impact gun. But first I just want to take some of the tension off the little locking nut. And see how that goes. I don't have a powerful air gun. So, but the torque level is supposed to be like 150 pounds. There we go. Off. The other way of doing this, if you don't have an air impact tool, is before you lift the car off the ground, pull the center cap out of the wheel, get your power bar and your 32 millimeter socket, and you should be able to get it out. And that's now we can pull the caliper off and that. Let me just get my hook. You can buy hooks for this sort of application, but I can get this to work. It doesn't seem to like my race springs. I'll go down here. But alternatively, you can. That's good here. You can make your own. It's just not going to be my day, is it? Some days it works, and other days it just doesn't. Yeah, that should be out of the way enough, and we should be able to slide the rotor off, and we get to see what we have here. Glasses back on. So we have the tone ring, and hopefully we haven't, with the loose bearing, it hasn't been grinding away. Yeah, there's a lot of, looks like a porcupine, the ABS sensor. There is some attachments, Allens, for the tone ring. This is probably a good time just to crack them, not to take it off, but just to crack, because it's probably easier to do now than it is to do once the hub is off. And the hub, this car hasn't spent a lot of time outside in the winter, although this bearing's probably never been out after, what is that, 14 years, so it might not like coming off. Man, is that loose. it might not like coming off. So we'll try the slide hammer. If it comes out, great. If not, well then, you know, we're not. It's gonna slide hammer will ruin the bearing. We're obviously not going to try and save the bearing, but maybe we can get it out. So let's get those bolts out. Might be difficult, but I'll try and get the camera behind so you can see what I'm doing. So before we get started, get some penetrant on there. So I just use some seafoam deep creep, just what happened to have, and then we're gonna see if we can crack this this nut. I think it's 19 mil. Let's just take a look. And the parking brake cable is kind of in the way. Yeah, you can kind of get at it. Might be better to remove this bolt. And this holds the, I think this is the ABS sensor wire and some protection, but it also holds the hoop where the parking brake cable goes through. So let's see if we can get that off. More off in 12 than anything else. Well, that's a little stiff. Can't really get at the backside with, well, maybe I can. Just don't want it galling up and snapping off. And sometimes when it's questionable, don't use a power tool, just do it by hand, then you can feel what's happening. We're going to have this no problem. That's out of the way. And that you can slide down. Oops. Maybe the other way. Go. And then give you some more room to move the brake cable, handbrake cable around, and hence being able to, there we go, get it out of the way, and we can do that a little easier. Okay, so 19 mil. Start with the power bar, see whether this is going to turn or not. Oh, and just the nut is turning, which I believe is kind of standard fare with these. Now, here's the other part. Is this going to turn? And the quick answer is no. This is going to be fun, boys. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only YouTuber that's done this. I know Eric at South Main Auto shows doing these. He does a great video on it, which I have watched. So you may want to check that out. I'll give him kudos and thumbs up, as I'm not necessarily going to bore you guys through the whole process. I'll try and give you some highlights as we go through. I got to get this turning. I got to get my impact out, and my like air chisel, and to see if I can get this and put a little bit more torque on it, get a snipe on the power bar, and see if we can get it to move without breaking it. Anyway, wish me luck. Thanks. Well, I've got the long bolt soaking in penetrating oil, And I've confirmed that the common problem is that the bolt sticks inside the bushings in the lower control arms. So the alternate is you can take the whole assembly off with the control arms hanging out and deal with it after, but that doesn't generally help. It makes it difficult. Or you can pull the assembly up. So what I'm going to do to get clear access and I'll be able to shoot a little better is I'm going to use the slide hammer and pull off the hub. So it should come out. I've got the nut completely off now, the drive axle, and so we should be able to pull this out. So let's see if we can get this done. Just a little baby guy. So I'm not too sure how well it'll do on this. I've done it. Well, there's another video on a Civic wheel bearing, and we just want to make sure that we get enough. Now, what you want to do is there's a T-handle. You pull to keep the tension, and then slide the hammer. You don't want to leave it loose and slide because then the energy will be lost. So tension this up and there is the remnants of the failed bearing. I'll be able to take the brakes off now and take the backing plate off, and we'll get better access to the whole assembly. I mentioned before I called it the porcupine, and you get a sort of a close-up of the wheel speed sensor, the ABS sensor, and all the metal filings. Which got the handbrake shoes and all hardware off now. So the ABS sensor bolt was not cooperating, so I have soaked it in penetrating fluid, and then once the backing plate's off, you should be able to get this off pretty quickly. There is a hole for both the ABS sensor and the parking brake. Well, the parking brake cable is attached, so that'll go with the backing plate when we pull it off. And we can just let it hang down and it'll be fine. Hopefully this likes to separate. Well, maybe not. Well, we're going to have to give it a little gentle persuasion. I keep a brass camera around. Always safety glasses on, ear protection. Old cars, stuff gets rusted on. Gonna put some more penetrating fluid on it, and I'm gonna get a drift so that I can get some direct pressure. What happens if you hit it too far away from where it's rusted, you're just bending the metal, you're not actually transferring the impact force. You want to get close to the edge so I can transfer more force. So I'll probably use a drift and a hammer, get the car up a little higher. So stand by. Well, that was quite an ordeal. I stopped filming because, well, honestly, I was struggling. It wasn't coming apart. I do have it apart now. As you can see, I've taken basically everything out, the knuckles off, took it all apart. The control arms, the lateral control arms are out. I left the trailing arm in. I just took out the bolt for that. Just so that you can see the culprit, of course, was these long bolts. This is what the new one looks like. The Subaru part number right there. And they rust up inside between the inner part of the bushing and the bolt. This one doesn't seem to be a coated one. Maybe that was something that was changed, or maybe just rusted anyway. This was the original one for the car, and you know, with the car being as old as it is, at 14 years, it's you know, going to happen. So the control arms, these are aluminum. I believe these are the STI ones. The bushings in them, there's 3 that are the same, and one that's different. So these guys, so these are the ones from Subaru. These are the ones from an aftermarket. I think they're from Napa Ultra. They've compared them. They're basically the same. So they feel very similar, but I'm probably going to put the Subaru ones on. There's the bolt. So I took these off and tried to press this out. Could not. The other end, I chopped it off. I tried to press it out. I tried to drill it out. Nothing was working. So it was a bit frustration. So really all I did was use the cutoff saw to cut them. And I had to be very careful as to not damage the control arms. That's the key, or the knuckle. You don't want to hit the knuckle or the... So once I got it off, I was able to get it over here on the press and knock out the bearing. So the bearing is out, the knuckle is there, and so just I have bearings. So I managed to get some SKF bearings, and then when you take it apart, you'll notice right there that it says NTN, which is interesting. And on the old bearing, this is the race from the old bearing, you can see that it's an NTN. And the one from Subaru, because I bought one from Subaru, and you can see it's NTN. So it looks like NTN are the only ones that make this bearing, so no matter where you get it from, you're going to get an NTN. So the other problem that I had was the hub. Because this bearing was loose, obviously it's spun, and so this hub is damaged. You can see this heated, am I going to say wear effect or neural effect? It's been turning in the inner race and wearing down. If I measured, it's actually over a millimeter smaller in diameter, so cannot use this hub. So I do have a new one from Subaru, which is right there. I haven't opened it yet. Let's get a knife, take a look. What I don't know is whether the studs are installed in this or not. Nice original Subaru packaging, and it's super sealed. Just like I'm going to put you down. You can apologize for looking at nothing. Looks like it's got studs. It's all ready to go, and it even has What is that? Oh, it's just, it's been blackened there, the seal surface. Interesting. There we go. It's all ready to go. Don't forget to install the ring. This is the ABS pickup ring. So that has to be installed on the hub before you press it into the knuckle. So there we go. Anyway, I'm going to set you up on the tripod. Oh, there's just a little peek. There's the Cobra. I will do. We're just about done. It's going to the upholstery shop soon, so we're still going to do a it's all done kind of video and a little drive. So, but it's getting really close, starting to look really nice. So let's set you up on the tripod and let's get this back together. All right, so the first step is going to be to get these control arms prepared. So I cleaned up the first one. You can see it, probably notice it might look a little better. Still not perfect, but the key there is to get anything that's on the surface cleaned up. I used some solvent and then a little bit of sandpaper with a block to do the surfaces, and I rolled it up to do the inside. So I've got it set up. I'm going to use some lube, and we're going to put it on the press and press it in. Nice if you can do it dry, but if it binds up and tears, it's no good. So a little bit of silicone base grease will help get this in there. And let's do that. First step is going to be, we don't need anything underneath the, well, actually I'm probably going to put something underneath just a minute so I don't have to pump so long, is just to get the bushing started in there. Always want to have a good solid surface that you're going to press up against, and so that you can confidently put some pressure on it. And of course you want to get it lined up, so let's get this down close. I've lubricated the inside with a little bit of silicone grease, as well as just around the lip there. There we go. So now it should deform and go in without ripping. Please do. Well, it seems to be held up just a bit. With the edge being fairly sharp, you want to get these inside. Doesn't seem to want to go. There it goes. The bushing is on its way in now, but it'll hit bottom before it's fully inserted. So then we'll have to have a bore for it to pass through. There we go. I think we're there. Okay. Yeah, she's coming through just fine. So we probably could have gone a little farther, but that's okay. So so now we want to have something to have it sit on. Has a bore in it. There we go. Make sure it's lined up. There's a little bit of tension, just touching, and then you should be able to make sure it's lined up, squared, and we should be able to drive this the rest of the way home. Now obviously we want it sitting in the center. That looks pretty good. Let's take a look, see how this is. So the lip hasn't come through the other side, so I think I'm going to drive it, and if you look from the side, the inside bushing is still a little high there. So we're going to get it on here. Oh man, I let that come up too high. Yeah. Less bumping time. Okay, that's a little bit further. Take a look. Yeah, that looks pretty good. You want to get them, if you don't think you got it right, just put a little pressure on the other side. You want to have the lips out. This one is not quite out. So what I think I'm going to do is just press the bushing in a little farther from one way, and then it should pop out, and then I'll press it back in the other way. So let's do that. There we go. And boy, that's pretty close. I'm going to just see if I can use a small screwdriver to pry this out before I press this back. I'll do this. I'll stop and just do just a little prying with a small screwdriver. I was able to get one part of the lip to come out, and then I just worked my way around and got the lip out. And the purpose of these lips is to keep dust and debris and water and whatever to get inside and cause corrosion. But now you can see that the bushing is no longer in the center. This side is more proud than this side. So I'm going to put it back in the press it, and I don't think you need to see that, but and then I'm going to do the other one, and then we're going to work on putting these back in the car. But to do that, I got to pull the drive shaft. So let's get going with that. So of course, to get the control arms back on, I need to have this bolt out, which means I need to take the drive shaft out, or get the drive shaft out of the way. So I just figured, well, I'm going to take this opportunity to remove this seal and put a new one in. Grabbed one from Subaru while I was ordering it. It's not expensive, obviously, and you know, to save yourself the trouble having to replace it if the seal fails later. So with the pry bar in place, now you want to make sure you don't scratch the inside of the housing. Get something to get a little purchase. It's sort of like you pull back, you just want to grab it, and out she comes. Come on, here you go. You can, one of the general rules that I have is to, if you're putting a seal in, you know, use the lubricate the insertion. Doesn't use a cloth. Is to use the same oil that's inside. You can even reach in and grab some of the gear oil or use gear oil, but grease also works. So these come with a little bit of grease on the inside of the lip. Subaru put some on. So now we need a seal driver, but this particular seal has got the lip sort of on the outside, so we need something that'll go over that without damaging it. So let me find something. I found this is an old wheel bearing inner race, and it just fits right over the top there. And just want to go around. You'll be able to feel it as it goes in. I think it's started pretty good now. So put that on. I've got this little guy here. This should help. It's coming. It's coming. Go slow. I'm just using a little body hammer here. It's, I don't do a lot of body work, but I use this hammer for a lot of things because when you're trying to tap something and you don't want to damage it. Well, there I've gone too far on the one side. So we're gonna tap it on this side. This is crooked. This is going to take a little bit of fixing. So the last seal was not buried in, it was sitting flush, and this has now gone below the outer lip. And I'm going to have to make it even all around, so it's going to take some finicky work here. Well, there, I've got the seal in. It's just a little bit below the surface, so it's a little deeper in than it originally was. Obviously, there's no lip behind to hold it in place. Sometimes there's a lip. What will end up happening is that the part of the seal that runs on the shaft will be in a slightly different place, but you know, that's not a bad thing either, because now it's a fresh surface instead of a worn surface. So it may actually do its job. Not that it had failed, but it'll do its job. So so the seal is in, and now I can put the control arms in, and then we can put the drive shaft back in and get going with the rest of it. Control arms on. So this is the cam bolt that gives you the ability to adjust toe in the back. So they're fairly snug, but they can still spin. So you'll want to tighten them once the weight is on the car. So it's loaded. This one is a little looser, but these are ready for the long bolt, and the new seal's in. So now we want to do is get the bearing and the hub pressed in, do the knuckle, and then we get the axle in and start putting it all back together. So let's go press that bearing in. And then I've got the new bearing, which has a plastic sleeve inside, which keeps the inner races together. You want to leave that in until you push in the hub. Then what I've done is taken the old bearing, which is obviously the exact diameter, and I've put a strap on here just to keep it oriented so it pushes only on the outside. And then I've lubed up the inside, and then I've just got a flat piece of steel to put on top here, and then this should all hold everything together nice and tight as we push this bearing into the housing. So there's a small lip at the bottom, so when it bottoms out, it stops moving, and then the other thing is that when you put the snap ring in. So the nice thing that Subaru's done in the design of the hub is there's just a little extra clearance on the top down to where the snap ring goes. So you can use an old bearing as a way of pushing it in, and it won't be a problem. So of course, where it will be a problem is just where my clamp reaches the bottom. Now if it's just a little bit loose, the clamp should just stay there, but hold the bearing in place as it goes through. That should not be in yet. Nope, definitely not. Make sure that is not binding. There it goes. We are just sliding right in. We're not getting any real pressure on the hydraulic press. And now the pressure's come up quickly to about 1.5 tons. So I'm guessing that this is bottomed out, and it has. So there we go. So yeah, a couple of tons, you know it's in. Okay, release, take it apart, remove the old bearing and the centralizer, we'll call it. And there we go. So I just have to put the snap ring in, and which is always fun. Maybe we can see if we can get that on. Okay. So before you reuse your clip here, you want to make sure that you inspect it. Look at it from the edge. Make sure there's no bend in it, or any other damage. If it's good, get your pliers here, and then it's a matter of just squeezing it together. And when you have the right pliers, this is just such an easy job. You can also do it, you know, carefully with a screwdriver or whatever, but there, that is sit right in. That's fine, and then it's holding the bearing in place. So that's it. We have the bearing in place. So then we want to prepare the hub, and then we're gonna press the hub in, but we want to make sure that we've got the backing plate on before we do that. So okay. So the next step before the hub's going to go back into the knuckle or the bearing, we want to reinstall the sensor ring. Sensor ring is goes on the back of the hub. I've cleaned this because it was showing a little bit of rust, wire brush, and a little bit of sandpaper just to flatten, take the rust off. Rust could close the gap to the sensor, and you don't want to do that. Now, this is a sort of thing that I recommend a little bit of Loctite. You know, it doesn't need a lot of force to hold these screws on, but this coming loose can ruin an ABS sensor, and which can cause you some grief. And because this is a race car, losing ABS in the middle of a race, we could have to rely on our skill, I suppose. But ABS is an advantage in competition, and I need all the advantage I can get. So we want to get this down, and then torque this. I don't know what the torque settings, but I'll look it up, and we'll get it torqued properly. With the Loctite on it, you know, if you just snugged it down, it'd probably be just fine. So I just got a couple of them started, so I do that sometimes. I install, like, get a piece started, and then without the Loctite, and then put a couple of other fasteners in, and then to take the ones out that you used to start it. You can tell because they're not tight. So one of the things we need to do before we press the hub in, I suppose we could do this after, but it makes sense to do it now. It's just easier, is to put in the rear seal. So some models have two on the back and one on the front. Subaru said just one on each side for me. So here's the seal, and fits down there. There's two lips. There's an outer one that if you have the seal, and this one is all kind of rusty, so you can tell it hasn't been used, and then there's a clean one down there. So so trying to figure out, because this is one of these with the seal lip on the top. Subaru put grease on these. Anyway, you don't want to damage this outer lip when you're putting it in, so you need something that's the right diameter. That, you know, I was thinking about it for a while and trying to figure out what I could use, and then it just dawned on me to use the old bearing, which I didn't mention it before, but I've taken out the inner races, so this will fit right on top of the seal, and right at the right diameter, and it's pretty close to being put in. So I just have a little piece of steel that's going to help me, and then I'm going to get my little pounder. I'm moving up to the next size hammer, because this is a little bigger seal. And the thing we always want to do is get it straight. Now this one will bottom. Take a look. As usual, it always seems to go in a little crooked to start. But work on it. Get your in the right place. Slowly work your way around. Checking. Look pretty good. Sounds like it's seated. Okay. So there we go. So that is ready to take the drive shaft. The outer edge of the drive shaft makes that seal when you put it together. So that's ready to go. So to do the other side, there's an outer seal. This is the one that they've given me to do that, and that will seal up against this surface here on the hub. So let's just open this, check it. This fits in there. Okay, that will work, and you can see that is the right size for there. So that is the right seal. It's big enough. Yeah, it's big enough. So it's coming. You can hear it. That seal is in place. Ready to put the hub in. I have to put the backing plate on. So the backing plate only goes on one way, which is handy. If you try and spin it around, the bolts won't all line up. So you don't have to be worried about getting it wrong. I'm not a crazy fan of these designs because having to have this on before you put the hub in. Just makes it a bit more awkward, I think. This is a 14 millimeter, and where's my other? Take a walk. Yeah, supposedly this will put up 40 foot-pounds, but yeah, no. So this will need to be checked before I put it together. How's that for a setup? So the wheel hub is sitting on the bridge directly, so it's not supported by the studs, so it's in there, and so it's sitting on and it's lined up with the inner race, and then I've got an old inner race on top of it, and then another inner race, so that I can press these together. Now I don't know how far I'm going to go because there's only so much stroke on the cylinder. I'm probably going to have to press it in a bit and then raise the bridge. So, here we go. So the whole idea here is that you've got force from the friction from the hub into the inner race, the first inner race, and the pressure is going through the other inner race. So it's not going on the outside, so you're not pressing on the bearing surfaces or whatever it is. So, and it should just slowly go in. I don't think it takes a tremendous amount of pressure. I'm not even getting anything on my gauge, but I think I'm at the extent. Well, not quite. Going in nicely. The plastic sleeve is still inside, but slowly that plastic sleeve will slide up into the inner races that I've got in there. So maybe there's enough stroke to get this done. Well, that just started building a bit of pressure. Very little. It's almost in. We're still stroking. We're still going. We just built pressure. Okay, so the thing we have to make sure is that I'm not too sure we're in all the way. We could be at the end of the stroke. So let's just take it apart here and we'll check to make sure everything is okay. So here's our plastic sleeve. It's now pressed into the old inner bearing. So that's okay. That's doing good. Well, it looks like it's in position. Yeah, looks like it's in position. But to be sure, what I'm going to do is take this out. And we're going to raise up this aside for a sec. Keep you guys on the close-up here. Just going to raise up the bridge. Get the cylinder up the top. I want to make sure that this is pressed in all the way. If it's not in all the way, then it could cause some issues. What issues would it cause? Well, it should not be in position. For one, here we go. There we go. And drop this in. That's sitting on the inner race. That's just a bit of an extension. Bit of a flat bar so we can press evenly and see. I think it actually might be in, but I just want to have confidence that it's bottomed out. So building, yeah, that's 3 ton. It didn't move. I didn't hear it move. So it is bottomed in. So it's fully installed. So there we go. So if you have a press, obviously this is easier way of doing it. It's an easy way of doing it. But you know, if you also have a what they call hub tamer or whatever, you can do these on the car if you've got one of those tools. But you know, it's a little bit beyond my ability to spend. Anyway, so so we got both seals in, we got the hub in. So now the next step is to actually put this assembly back on the car. Now I describe this part as a 2-person job, but there's only me today. So this could go well. I could be optimistic. It could be hilarious. Could be a big fail. We don't want that. So, just in case, safety, as Eric always says, safety third. Put something soft down for the hub to land on when it drops. I have bolts in hand to put this through. I've got to go through the drive shaft, which is still strung up to keep the stress off of it, but it's loose so that we'll be able to move it around. I've cleaned and prepared the splines. I like to put a little anti-seize on them. This is a race car, probably didn't need to do that, but it just means that you'll be able to get it off easier one day instead of it rusting in place. They typically stay clean on these cars because of course they're sealed. Little turn and wiggle, rotate up into place. Well, not quite. I'm going to end up blocking your view. Because I got to be on this side. Well, it's hung. We just need a nut. Okay, so there's a nut doing the work, but another kind of nut. Nut on the inside here. Okay, fine. Be like that. Don't push the bolt all the way in because it gets in the way of the drive shaft, gets in the way, and then you can't get it started. There we go. Now the top one is what I call eccentric. So it's this crazy bolt with oblong center. Come on. There we go. And of course I marked these before I took them off. Hopefully the marks are still there. Marked it with a paint marker. So it should be there. Yeah, look at that. So that needs to be tightened up, but we can put the lower arms on. So I think what I'll do is move the camera on the inside, move the car up, and so you can get a look, and then we'll put the big long bolt in and connect up the bushings that we pressed in earlier, okay? Here we go. Well, hopefully you guys can see. Turn the lift off to make it a little bit quieter. So there's big long bolt, 2 washers, and a locking nut. First bolt goes on there. Now, if your car is going to be outside, this is where I'm going to recommend that you put some, or parked outside. It's going to be together for years. You're going to want to put a little bit of probably anti-seize or some other type of lubricant on there to prevent this from rusting. Now the bolts are now plated, so and there's a bit of space in there, so I'm going to use a little fluid film, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put the fluid film on the bolt itself before we put it in. There we go. It's going through the hub. the other side. Let me just get the persuader. It's a little persuader. Brass hammer's handy because it won't damage anything. Okay. So, problem was, I had this rod backwards. One end has a bushing with a large opening, the other end has a bushing with a small opening. I had the large one. Of course, the small bolt fit through it, no problem. Okay, so we had the fluid film. Got the washer on through this part. The little fluid film inside the bushing. Move it into place. Oh, look at that. Oh my god. It actually just goes together nice. So, new washer. New nut. There we go. Stop. Alright. So you get the gist. Once you got the bolt in, a little extra fluid film right in the corners there. Oh, where would I put it? Put somewhere. Right here. Put it really in a handy spot. Right there in the corner. Right there in the corner. And that might slow down the rust. In this case, with this car, probably not going to be a problem. So there we go. I'm going to cut off for now for today. Running out of time. So we're going to wrap this up tomorrow. And I'll try and take you along for the last button up. We'll try and do it quickly because if you've gotten this far, you probably know how to finish it off. So if you're jumping off now, thanks for watching Gary's Garage. Please subscribe. I do have some more stuff coming. Sorry, it's been a busy race season, so haven't quite had as much time to do videos as I like. But I'll keep working on some over the next month and we'll get them posted. Anyway, thanks for watching and take care. And there it is, all back together. Everything buttoned up, tightened. Loaded the suspension before I tightened, torqued all the bolts. Looked up the numbers so that I had them and I put it all together. So there we go. Done. I'd say easy, but no.